I'm Rob Licuria, senior editor at Gold Derby, here with Three Body Problem star Benedict Wong. Benedict, I was completely blown away by how ambitious and audacious this show is. And so I'm wondering what most excited you about this story when you first did a deep dive before production started.
Hey, Robert. I mean, just exactly as you said, just the magnitude of this. It's just, it takes an army and a village and another army and another village to make this. I mean, when I first met them, and we're dealing with three showrunners as opposed to the normal standard. It's just such a massive project to take on board. I just thought, the many sort of genre stories that are being told. It's kind of, I just felt like in terms of your head wise, it felt like this. It was like the macro and the micro of it all, and you just can keep moving on a much larger scale with such bigger themes, or just kind of go into sort of a real minutiae of like one-on-one relationships between these characters. And I just thought this is a massive project to take on. And I just thought, yeah, I'm in for this ride.
Yeah, I can imagine. I haven't felt this way about a TV show for a long time where I, did a bit of research and read up on the mythology and watched interviews like a real fan. And it's because this show is so dense. There's so
Yeah,
much going on. And it's also the characters, the way that Benioff, Weiss, and Wu, the legends that Jovan Adepo told me that we should just refer to them as DAD or Dad. Um, uh, they really nailed it, and this could have been a really embarrassing misfire, and it's so not. It's the number one show on Netflix. Critics really love it. Do you feel good, or do you feel relieved that after all this time the world is catching up with Three Body Problem and how great it is?
oh, I mean, yeah. It was a blind faith. I tend to have a really good sort of Dowling stick for kind of like, who's on board. The this incredible ensemble that we've got, the amazing crew that we have in terms of, they've been with the Game of Thrones guys for a number of years, and that sort of level of shorthand that they have. You're just on a very sort of well-oiled juggernaut. And I just thought, yeah, they were fantastic. Yeah, I was kind of, I I once I get the job, I just tend to sort of just get on with selfishly do what I need to be doing, and I'm sure they've hired the right people for the right job. So it's the blind faith, and then I just think we all just sort of come together. And as you said, I mean, like, when I was reading the books, it's just like it was. I hold my hands up. It was just a real dense read, and I just wasn't quite sure how this was going to be filmed. And that in itself is the challenge, and for it to make it so, you know, palatable as a show with these sort of many threads. But you do have to sort of it's not something that you sit back and just let something gloss over you. You've got to sit up and really earn your dinner. For this one, it's not,
Yeah,
you're not spoon fed for it. So yeah,
that's right. You got to engage with this. Is not a show that you can watch with your phone in one hand and the TV in your periphery. You have to pay attention, which is fine. It's good. So you play investigator Clarence Da Shi, and David and Dan, the co-creators alongside Alexander, they told you that she was one of the key characters of the show, just like Peter Dinklage and Sean Bean were for Game of Thrones. And you've mentioned this before. Why did they
mm.
see this character as being so pivotal to the story?
Well, he runs throughout the books, and in terms of like casting wise, and obviously the it's their version, which is inspired from the books, and has been given the blessing from by Sershin to make it a much more global story, and yet we still got the kind of Asian spine of kind of the Yeo and Jia, obviously, because as the story begins in 1960s China, and but yet we have the sort of diaspora of making these characters. Jas Hong being from a Kiwi, you know, from New Zealand, which is I
Yeah.
don't think I've seen an Asian Kiwi league like this, and what better way to kind of launch her in this way, but yet also the character of Da Shi is this kind of world weary, you know, it says it how it is, and doesn't suffer fools gladly. Sort of really transposes really well in Manchester, you know, and you know, I mean, I've been in the game for about 32 years now, and I sort of rarely get a chance to play more someone from the north, you know, and for me, it's quite a launching pad for me to get my teeth into with a character so fully formed, complex, and you know, is just on such a massive journey arc with this story.
Yeah, and I think he's arguably probably one of the most beloved characters from the books. And some of his sarcasm and being the smartest guy in the room has been carried over, but he is a little different. I still think I just looked forward to seeing him on you on screen because I figured it out pretty early in terms of how the way I was responding that because he's so competent and straight shooter, he'll help us, the audience, figure out what the hell's going on. I really wanted to know what was going on. He's also savagely funny. And so, given that he really resonated with me, the viewer, I'm wondering if you felt the same way about him as well and how you really enjoyed being that linked to the audience and trying to figure out what the hell this show's about.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's kind of like we're I mean, like England is kind of the purveyors of sarcasm, you know, kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, and definitely in the north, and it's full of kind of, you know, we're big-hearted, we're warm, but you know, we also don't take any shit as well. So, and I think very much is like that Da Shi character, and you know, he's the bloodhound that you want. He's the gumshoe, and in a way, we kind of, as an audience viewer, you need him to guide you through this as well, you know. And I definitely, for me, you know, when I started beginning my research in terms of this new sort of iteration of Da Shi, and the fact that he's you know, as a counter-terrorist operative, there's someone that has been kind of fired, but has always kind of gone up another level through it. It's something that he has a level of uniqueness where people just often say, just leave him and let him get on with it. You know, so you know, he's that highly skilled. I mean, he's kind of sort of whatever the kind of Oxford Five have within their intellect within science. He has that in terms of his level of instinct in solving and unraveling what exactly is going on. You know, so
Yeah.
so the interesting marriage. Yeah.
It's a time-honored tradition in pop culture to have the gumshoe, as you say, the Hercule Poirot in Law and Order. I mean, it's been going for centuries. This character that grounds the audience. We're trying to figure out what's going on. He's also really likable. He's a bit of an ass sometimes. He's rude. He's sarcastic, but we love that. So we first see him when he's at this scene of a crime, a gruesome crime, trying to figure out what's going on. Is that the first scene that you filmed as him, or did you have something else as your entree into this character?
The first scene that we did, I think it was we just dived in very deep with our relationship between myself and Thomas Wade, really. So with the amazing Liam Cunningham,
Oh, my God.
my Torval, my Ginger, it's, and I thought that was really great just to, you know, because our scenes were, you know, predominantly throughout the series, and just what it is between these two people that are kind of like almost untouchable, and they're a very unlikely duo, but they both need each other, it's kind of great respect and very dark banter that they have with each other. So that was my kind of sort of first scenes really as Da Shi,
Wow.
but necessary ones as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was that rapport with Liam easy to establish early on? Because that relationship, but it's almost like buddy cop where they, you know, Wade can be a bit of an asshole to
Yeah.
she, but also I just love the way that you guys interacted. Was that an easy thing to come up with quite quickly?
Do you know what? I mean, thank the universe, honestly. Yeah, we just kind of, you know, a huge admirer of Liam. And, you know, I think I met him very briefly at a party at one of Michael Winterbottom's kind of famous Christmas parties. And he was there. I think Tim Robbins was there and Woody Harrelson was there very late at night. I was like, but I kind of, he didn't know me, but I sort of just like knew him from afar. But yeah, when we came on set, it was just like, yeah, you know, I've said it many times before, but we are grafters at heart, and we just sort of we get our jobs done, and then we just find room that allows us to play, you know, and it just makes it very comfortable to, you know, to work with, and and then it just sort of bounce. We just sort of bounce off each other really, and I can just, you know, throw a bit of a curveball at him, and he can throw one at me, and we just both catch them. And it's kind of sort of unspoken, but it just, yeah, I'm really pleased that people are seeing that. I mean, we there's a glint in each other's eyes when we see each other on set. Just we're happy to see each other, and yeah, we just long may it continue with where we go with our scenes. Yeah.
I hope so. I want to see more. I love that dynamic. I think it really works the two of you together. But also, there's this, you know, episode 5 is like the episode directed by Minky Spyro and written by Dan David. And there's a lot of action, you know, the ship and all that stuff. But there's this other scene. Actually, it's a few scenes with you and Rosalind Chow,
Yeah.
and Shia is interrogating Ye Wenjie, and a lot of it is non-verbal cues, body language, facial expressions. It's such a masterclass. It's so riveting. So my question is, what is the strength that you were able to get from Rosalind to really make that scene fly? Because it really does.
Thank you. I mean, and again, you know, as I talk about Liam as well, you know, it's equal praise again with another fantastic dance partner within Roslyn, and we just we just in the moment with bouncing off each other. Really, it was kind of, and especially where something's quite static. Uh, she's hardly moving at all, and it's just I'm trying to pull this information out. It's a real sort of peeling of the onion, you know, and information that people are either harboring and things that I know. It's a real quite a sort of chess game, really. I
Mhm.
felt, and you're just constantly looking for flickers, and you know, again, I mean, I happened upon this counter-terrorist operative, and I was just always forever asking, you know, what would it be like within an interview scene, and you know, just and also the day-to-day of kind of on the ground and looking for your mark and kind of surveillance. So all of this, all of these sort of tactics all sort of came to play really. So I was just kind of sort of using those.
Yeah. Speaking of Rosalind, and you mentioned Jess Hong before, it reminds me that there's some really talented creatives both in front of the camera, behind the camera, that are of Asian background, telling a
Yeah.
story that began as a revered Chinese sci-fi classic epic. Is Three Body Problem an example of how far we've come? We've come a long way in popular culture in terms of representing different and diverse voices, particularly people of an Asian background, which I think is so important and so welcome.
Oh, massively. I mean, for it to be, you know, that this trilogy is held as, you know, an incredible books and writing, and for, you know, and high praise to Peter Friedlander to uh, um, he took this book, and he was a big fan of these books, and passed it over to Dan and Dave and Alex, just for them to be realized. You know, it's a big job for it to be written and for these stories to be shared, but to see these being realized, and in the way that to make it a much more global story, I just think it's fantastic. You know, it does so many different things where it elevates so many actors as well to that at times have had very few opportunities to play something like this. So it's a massive celebration through the stories and through the actors that they've got for the jobs, I think.
Yeah, and really the fact that three of the main cast are of Asian background, specifically Chinese or Hong Kong background, is really irrelevant. But
Mm.
you know, Derek Zhang directed the first two episodes as well. He's an incredible Hong Kong director, Oscar nominated. There's a lot of voices that have Alexander Wu, of course, so
Yeah,
articulate, so intelligent, and I just really admire that the show didn't whitewash it too much in trying to make it more diverse ethnically. It still has a bit of an anchor in obviously what happened in China in the 1960s and how that affects Ye Wenjie's decision to press that button. I just found that
yeah.
all so fascinating, and I that's why I wondered if that was something that really resonated with you, given your 3 decades plus of work in trying to create your own voice in the entertainment industry. So that must have felt really good for you.
Absolutely. I mean, with Dan, Dave, and Alex's approach about, you know, it's always key of who do you get for the first two episodes of any series, you know, and for them to pick Derek as well, who was very much in his prime, to approach this story with such sensitivity. You know, I mean, we're talking like 1960s China, and kind of, you know, the Cultural Revolution, and what happened there, and him sort of engaging with people that were there at the time, and to tell, you know, to tell both sides of the story of the people that were there. And I think you do see that, and that's part of this backdrop. But yet you also see this, what launches someone into that decision of why they press this button, because they've lost all faith in humanity. And you know, that's a big one to start off with. And it's like, you know, again, massive high praise in terms of, you know, their level of casting of, you know, I love that section there, and all the Asian actors that they got, and, you know, and sort of where we've kind of launched a star within Zine Zhang, who that's her debut.
Yeah, she was a student. Like,
Debut, you know, to play the young Ye Wenjie, and you know, I think she got offered the job, and she asked the university if they'd allow her to do the job, which they said no, and she pressed the button and left.
yeah.
And you know, without
And
that,
now
you
look,
know, it's kind of like, you know, all much for our benefit as well. And
yeah,
what an incredible part, and just that whole scene, and it's the important section there of
yeah.
the reason of why, and to some degree you watch that and you can't help but empathize as well, you know.
Of
But
course.
I think this is it. It kind of does leave audiences divided, you know, with many characters, I think. So
Yeah. Xinjiang is so incredible. I remember picking up my phone and looking her up. Like, who is she? She's amazing, and she's just brand
yeah,
new. And that's the whole sequence leading up to the pressing of the button when the Santee have finally broken through and communicated with us. Is that's in episode 2, I think, is so good. Without all the backdrop of why she felt that way, we probably wouldn't have bought into the reason for why she presses it. And I was like, press it, press it. I want to see what happens. So I mean, that's cool. That's fun. That's what we're watching it for. I have a final question, and it's more about just your career to date, because you've played so many great characters, particularly in sci-fi. So a lot of sci-fi nerds like me are huge fans of your work, like the Sorcerer Supreme. You played spies, you played scientists, Kubla Khan. That was probably my entree into your work when that
Yeah.
amazing show on Netflix. And now Da Shi, and I'm just curious, they're all kind of badass in their own way. You often play no-nonsense characters that don't mince words, but also quite relatable. I'm curious if that's really something that's innately your personality that shines through, or is that just coincidental?
I think it kind of does, really. Yeah. I mean, as I said to you before, about it kind of feels a little bit more hand in glove now with
Yeah.
me being Manchester and Salford, and with the character of Da Shi, and those characteristics are kind of we're very alike. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think I've been in positions of kind of power that I've seemed to have played, and throughout Kublai Khan, and obviously Sorcerer Supreme, and yeah, and with Dasha. So that seems to be the case. I think to some degree it's how I've led my life. I mean, I represent myself as an agent for the best part of 10 years, and because yeah, I guess the industry didn't know how to handle me, so I just thought I'd end up representing myself through that, and then that has led to signing my own Marvel deal, signing Three Body Problem deal,
It's
and
crazy.
yeah, I just you just kind of got to
You got to
be
hustle. You got to
be
make
the
it
change
work.
in the world. Yeah, as
That's it.
Gandhi said, yeah.
Well, it's paying off. Final question: Man U or Man City? I just don't know what side you're.
Yeah, Manchester United, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. But that was one of the hardest challenges, actually. But it's a scene that now is no longer there. But where I was at the graveside, there was this dialogue where it was like Erling Haaland and City are doing well, and it was only one of the few things that I couldn't say when I approached the dads, and I said, "No, I'm a Man United fan," and if
Yeah.
I'm honest, I probably wouldn't have taken the job if I read that ahead. But
Like, absolutely. I mean, yeah. There's no more bitter rivalry, I think, than that the Man U Man City. Even though just quietly I'm a Tottenham supporter, but that's another
yeah,
story. Uh, Mate, thank you so much for your time. Congrats on some really, really amazing work, and thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
thanks, Robert. Appreciate it.